Welcome back to Lit Sports Online. We're here with a new episode of Split Decision. We're going to do a recap for UFC 246, McGregor versus Cerrone, which ended pretty quickly for that main event.
Very quickly.
But we'll go through the fights we covered for the preview video, all the fights on the main card, starting first with Anthony Pettis versus Diego Ferreira.
Diego Ferreira won via submission.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things I talked about in the preview video, and one of the things I thought might happen was if the fight goes to the ground, man, Diego Ferreira is a world-class jiu-jitsu black belt. You know, he's a champion of jiu-jitsu tournaments and all sorts of stuff, and he's about as high level as you get in jiu-jitsu in the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
And I was curious to see how... First of all, I was curious to see Anthony Pettis' approach on the feet, to see how he would try to avoid getting to the ground with this fight, and how Diego Ferreira would try to get it to the ground if he needed to go that way, if he was getting outclassed in striking. What I didn't expect was for Ferreira to be the one to put the pressure on.
Yeah.
His striking has gotten better since he's been in the UFC, and he's shown more of an interest in staying standing on the feet. But he was pressuring Pettis the whole time. Pettis wasn't really getting his back off the cage, wasn't throwing with a ton of volume. I mean, he is a counter striker, but you don't like to see him just kind of cornered all the time.
Yeah.
And eventually Ferreira was able to get the fight to the ground, and once he did, it was, there's not much that Pettis had to offer. You know, it was kind of survival mode for Pettis on the ground, and it didn't last all that long for him. I think he got submitted in the second round via rear naked choke.
Yeah.
So, I mean, great win for Diego Ferreira moving up in the division. I think he said he doesn't really want a ranked opponent quite yet, but, I mean, you beat Anthony Pettis.
Yeah, you might as well.
Anthony Pettis is one of the biggest names in the lighter weight divisions.
He's a
former champ. So,
yeah.
there's only you can only go up from a big name like Pettis.
Next up, we do know that Aleksei Grasso missed her weight, canceling that match.
Yeah, I think about like 5.5 pounds.
That sucks, dude, and that takes me back to wrestling.
Yeah,
like having to run before like match just to make weight.
Dude, but it's also like they fight at 115 pounds. So when you miss weight by 5.5 pounds,
like what were you doing?
That's
wrong?
a lot.
That's a lot of weight,
dude, for a 115-pound person.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just. I mean, you're a professional athlete. This is your job. Mm-hmm. That's unacceptable. Like what, really?
Especially with a fight of this caliber, where it's one of the tops. I think Grasso might have been 7th or something, and Claudia Gadelha is like 3rd or 4th in the division. So it's potentially a number 1 contender fight, and you miss weight. But I think she said she's going to go up a weight class to flyweight and fight at 125.
Yeah.
She's a decent sized straw weight, so. Probably a better move for her overall.
Yeah.
We're seeing that be a trend, as we see in the main event. Cerrone and McGregor are both lightweights that went up to welterweight. McGregor is actually a featherweight. I think sports has changed where it's like we're not trying to force these people to have eating disorders to stay weight.
Because I know, like, from wrestling, I remember a lot of kids, trying to make weight was a big deal. It's not uncommon to see dudes running around the school with trash bags on to make weight before a match,
Yeah, and that's exactly what these guys do.
Yeah.
They sit in saunas, all this crap, and it's
not worth it on your body.
No, it's the long-term impacts and the short-term impacts are pretty devastating. And I think more and more people are realizing that as they see fighters go up in weight and have success. You have your Robert Whittaker, who was a welterweight, who was a champ at middleweight. You have Kelvin Gastelum, another number 1 contender at middleweight. You have Donald Cerrone, who went up to welterweight and had success. Rafael dos Anjos went up to welterweight and had success. Conor McGregor came up to 155 and 170 from featherweight. So more and more people, and especially high-profile people, are doing it, and I think it's a good way for the sport to go.
Yeah. 100%.
Because you don't need to dehydrate your brain and then go out and get kicked in the head.
Yeah, like
you can't rehydrate in 24 hours.
There's no need for that. That's asking for trouble. CC. So she didn't have the match, but Aleksei Oleinik and Maurice Greene had their match where Olynyk won via armbar.
Yeah. And again, it was a question of how does Maurice Greene, who has a proclivity for knockouts, handle Olynyk, who is known for his submissions. One submission in particular, a very specific choke that is generally one of the easier chokes to avoid from MMA fighters, but he just, for whatever reason, seems to be amazing at it. And he got an armbar with a weird in kind of a weird scramble situation. You know, Greene was trying to get out, and he actually got an armbar with like a scarf hold on the neck. So instead of your typical armbar where the legs are across the torso, it was kind of around his head, and he kind of armbarred him at like an angle where his arm was down around his knee.
Oh, jeez.
And yeah, it's pretty brutal, but I mean, it just goes to show how good Aleksei Oleinik is at submissions. You know, he's not just looking for one or two submissions. He is just taking every scramble and every weird moment and every uncomfortable position and every uncomfortable transition and can potentially turn it into a fight-ending submission in a couple seconds where other people aren't even looking for submissions.
Yeah, exactly. Well, next up we have Holly Holm. She took on Raquel Pennington. Unless you were not done.
Nope.
Yeah, Raquel Pennington. It was a rematch. Holly Holm won the first fight via split decision, but this time she won unanimously. So, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it was, I guess, about what I expected it to be. Holly Holm's an amazing fighter. She's a huge name. She's a former champ. She kind of, you know, has that aura around her because she's the one who kicked Ronda Rousey in the neck and, you know, ended her reign of terror.
That's why she's in the WWE.
Yeah,
one of the reasons.
Yeah, between Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes, they gave Ronda Rousey enough concussions, and she called it a day. But it was a good fight on Holly Holm's part. You know, it was a good game plan, good execution, but boring as all hell as fights go. You know, it's Holly Holm kind of landing like kind of pot shots from the outside and counter striking, and then pressuring Raquel Pennington against the cage and winning the fight by controlling the clinch game and controlling the dirty boxing and really just holding Raquel Pennington against the cage and you know, just grinding out a decision. Not very exciting to watch, but you know, when you look back on it, the only thing that really matters is the W or the L.
Yep, and Holly Holm now is in a better position now.
Yeah, and you know, you can earn a title shot off of one giant victory, you know, crazy flashy victory, but you can also earn a title shot just based off playing it safe and winning any way possible, and that's what Holly Holm is trying to do.
Yeah. Now, of course, here's the main event, you know, the match everybody was talking about, the build-up, Conor McGregor's return, taking on the Cowboy, a fun fight, 40 seconds. 40 seconds. All that build-up. I mean, that's a great win for Conor, but 40 seconds, that was crazy.
Yeah, it was way quicker than I thought it would be.
Way.
And like you said, it's a great win for Conor, and honestly, for Conor, maybe the best way to possibly win. Yeah. So there's a lot of questions that people have about Conor and what he's going to look like. Is he in shape? Is his cardio improved since he seemed to get tired in some of the fights prior to this? And, you know, what's his takedown defense and all this stuff? None of those questions got answered. At all. That being said, for Conor, whose whole thing is finishes quickly, generally, you know, flashy market, like it's the best possible marketing moment. Yeah. You know, the triumphant return takes out one of the biggest names in the sport. The guy who I consider, like, if you were going to put one representative up to say who represents MMA or the UFC, I would say Donald Cerrone is it, man. He is just the fighter's fighter. Just will fight anyone, anywhere, at any time. Does not care. Graceful in defeat as always, but you know, Conor McGregor went out there and won in 40 seconds. It was 40 seconds.
Like, I mean, again, a dominating victory. You just whooped the dude's ass in 40 seconds.
Yeah, and there was
welcome back.
Yeah, and like the one thing that we did see that was interesting was kind of like a little bit of new things, right? Like what happened was McGregor came out and kind of went for a takedown almost immediately. I think just to throw Conor off, probably, you know, because Conor likes to come out and throw big stuff. So I think you know, Cerrone's coming out and saying, if I can throw something that's going to catch him off guard real quick, he'll second guess that kick, right? But what happened was McGregor sort of was trying to throw a kick at the moment that Cerrone went for a takedown, and he kind of transitioned it into catching him with a knee. So Cerrone goes in for a takedown, gets hit with a knee. He's a little dazed, right? Gets up, gets in the clinch, And then McGregor started throwing these shoulder strikes.
Yeah.
He started like ducking down and coming up and hitting Cerrone straight in the nose with his shoulder. You could tell he broke his nose with one of them and just completely dazed him. And Cerrone was completely off from that moment forward. I think the knee is really what did it.
Yeah.
The knee was the start, but you know, if
the shoulder, a unique offense, you know.
Yeah, the knee started it, but that shoulder, I think is really what did it. And then you know they broke apart in the clinch. Cerrone threw a head kick. McGregor blocked it. McGregor threw his own head kick, caught him with the toes and the ball of the foot right on the back of the jaws. The only part that, and a lot of people are saying that the fight was fixed. You couldn't have done that with shoulder strikes or whatever. If you rewatch that kick, dude, Cerrone or McGregor throws a full on kick. And the only thing that hits Cerrone in the only spot is like the toes and ball of McGregor's foot right on the back of his jaw. That's exactly what you're supposed to aim for when you're punching, is the jaw, right? Hits him straight on the jaw, completely dazes Cerrone. Cerrone goes down, McGregor lands some punches, they call the fight in 40 seconds, right? It's about as impressive. It's about as good a win as it can be because he had some shoulder strikes which nobody's done in a long time. It's not completely foreign to the UFC, but it's not something you see often. Yeah, exactly, and especially used to the effectiveness that it was. The other thing is everybody's saying the only thing you got to worry about with McGregor is that big left hand in the first 2 rounds, right? Yeah. Then McGregor throws this weird crap in the clinch that completely catches Cerrone off guard. A very, very seasoned veteran who's seen more UFC fights than anyone in history, right? Showed him something new. Not only that, but then after that, wins basically with a head kick. So it's kind of a wake-up call of going, you guys thought I only had this one thing, but look how much more diverse my striking game is and how dangerous I can be in positions you would never expect it from me. Good win, right?
Yeah. I think, you know, I think the question is, I mean, we know Conor's just going to go out from here. I don't think that's a mystery, but what about Cerrone? Where does he go? So I wouldn't classify, and I guess, you know, it's all about wins and losses. I wouldn't classify this as a bad loss because of the name of Conor McGregor. What he's probably going to go on to do after this, likely probably go for a title, I imagine. Not soon, but it's in the picture,
Yeah, probably.
It's coming. We know it.
Yeah, but Cerrone, I think the worst part about this loss isn't this loss as a standalone loss. It's the fact that he's now on a 3-fight losing streak, right? That being said, he is a fan favorite. He's a favorite among other fighters.
Yeah.
And he's a big name. So I don't think, you know, we're not going to see him. He's not going to get cut anytime soon. They're not going to start throwing him people who it's their first fight in the UFC. But, you know, I think at the age that Cerrone is now, he's been in this position before where he's been on a kind of a little bit of a skid. And he's come back and, you know, earned number 1 contender fights again. But, you know, Cerrone is the guy that will take any fight at any time. He doesn't care about short notice. He doesn't care who the opponent is. He doesn't care if they want to strike, if they want to grapple. Nothing. None of that matters to him. He just likes to fight. So Cerrone is just going to keep making money. He's going to keep being the co-main event or on the main card of anytime he fights. And he's going to still have fun fights. And I think that's what Cerrone's legacy is going to be, man. He's
amazing fights.
He has the most fights in UFC history, the most wins in UFC history, the most finishes in UFC history. I mean, outside of having the championship, like holding a title, he has everything you could ever want out of a career.
Yeah.
Wins, losses, good storylines, good rivalries. I mean, like, he's far and away.
Yeah.
Immediately upon retiring, I think Hall of Fame.
No question.
Right away.
No question.
Just put him in the Hall of Fame now.
Get it done with.
Screw it. Let him be the only fighter to be in the Hall of Fame before he retires. That dude deserves it. If anyone deserves this, now it's Cerrone.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Do you think Conor deserves a title shot?
No, not yet. I would give him another fight. Give him another fight. Give him another fight, maybe 2, but definitely 1 more.
The other question is what division?
What division?
So this fight's at welterweight, right? 170.
Why not stay at welter?
He was the champ at 155. That's where he fought Khabib. He lost to Khabib his last
But then
fight.
that would be such an amazing match.
A rematch, yeah.
A rematch. That'd be great.
So I think there's there's a few options, right, for McGregor. I think there's 3 real options because of knowing McGregor, how big McGregor is and who he is and what he does with his fights. He takes the biggest money fight with the highest profile possible. And it doesn't really matter if he's fighting a number 1 contender or not because it's Conor McGregor, because it's so big, and because he's only lost big name fights. He's always 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot. So he could fight somebody who's not really a number 1 contender and still earn himself a title shot. And that's what happened with Cerrone. Dana White's coming out saying we need to book the McGregor-Khabib rematch. Dude, Khabib has a fight scheduled for February against Tony Ferguson, his toughest challenge yet, by far. Ferguson is a tougher challenge for Khabib than McGregor is. And I have no idea what's going to happen in that fight, but I guarantee you Khabib's not fighting in April against Ferguson and then in, May or June against McGregor. He's going to have he's getting messed up somehow. Ferguson is a monster, and that is a nightmare matchup for everyone in the division in both guys. So there's no way that fight goes smoothly for anybody, right? But that's the biggest money fight, I think, right?
That's the one that makes the money. I mean, but again, it's like dropping the weight is going to have to come into play. I mean,
and he just had a victory. His last fight in the lightweight division is a loss to Khabib. He won in the welterweight division. How does that earn him a title shot in the lightweight division?
Yeah, that makes no sense. If anything, just go up.
So there's some fights in the welterweight division people are talking about. People are talking about Jorge Masvidal, who just won the BMF title. So he's kind of riding that wave of popularity right now. They're talking about him fighting Kamaru Usman, the current champ. I think both of those are bad fights for McGregor. There's huge dudes that strike with a lot of power and have a lot of great wrestling. But I think I think 1 of 4 things happens. Khabib, Masvidal, probably not Usman, but he's in there just because he has a title, or Diaz, because that Diaz fight's always going to be huge money. Diaz is coming off a loss to Jorge Masvidal. The best way to get him back in the spotlight, put him against McGregor.
It's true.
You never know.
We never. But I think my money is on Khabib. I mean, if Dana White gets his way, that's probably what's going to happen.
But Khabib has to win first.
He has to win. I mean, there is a hurdle ahead of that, but if he can...
Yeah. And even if Khabib loses, they can still make the Khabib fight.
They'll still make it. It'll just be a non-title fight.
And that'll be a number 1 contender fight to see who gets to fight Tony Ferguson.
That's true.
By the way, the prospect of a McGregor-Tony Ferguson fight...
That's insane.
Ooh, man. Not for the fight.
Yeah.
The fight, I think Ferguson's a real bad matchup for McGregor. That being said, McGregor, propensity to win at any moment. But Ferguson's a real bad matchup for him. The trash talk between Ferguson and McGregor would be amazing. Tony Ferguson is a wild man and says some real outlandish stuff. And him trash talking McGregor, I think, would just be a thing of beauty.
Let's do this. Make it happen.
I don't know what's going to happen. I'm excited to see what happens.
It is exciting. I mean, Conor being back, definitely just adds to the UFC. I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing time, fight fans. And that does it for our show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for many more videos we got coming out, plus a few podcasts later on. Have a great night.
All right, rolling. Split decision, 5, 4, 3.
You motherfucker.
Counting it again.
He said what?
Yeah, what the
5,
fuck?
4, 3.
If you guys make noises, I'm choking the fuck out of all of you.
Rolling in 5, 4, 3.
Introduce it, bro. Let's hear it.